Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. My name is Chris. Tonight, checked out this movie called Gaia. It's a South African movie, directed by Jaco Bouwer. So the movie's about these two forest rangers who are doing this routine mission and then get separated. The one gets injured and runs into these two survivalists who live in the forest, and then some hijinks ensue, and we'll get into spoilers with this thing a little bit because I do have some things to talk about. So, it is a ecological horror movie with some body horror elements and a creature ripped basically straight from the Last of Us video game, like almost identically, but a very different story than that in some ways. So this movie's really great looking. I love the camera work. I thought it was really well done, very trippy, very art house kind of movie. Slow burn, but does have monster moments. But you'll know what you're getting into pretty quickly with this thing. But the first, 15 minutes of the movie kind of plays out like a tropey horror movie about a monster in the woods. Which, don't get me wrong, sometimes I'm there for as well. But I was looking for something a little bit deeper after I read some comments about this movie. Which, I don't know if this movie ever really gets deep. Its narrative and its message is pretty clear up front and has been done many times before. That like humanity is this gluttonous creature that exploits and corrupts the earth. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the message behind a lot of ecological horror movies, where there is obviously truth to it, but that is the message within the movie. And the way the story is told, it makes it seem like there's going to be something deeper that just never reveals itself. That's not to say I didn't enjoy this thing. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like those art housey kind of horror movies quite a bit. Now I know there's a big audience that doesn't, so if you see the first 10 minutes, you might be a little confused when it goes in that direction. So if you're not into those movies, I would completely avoid this thing. But there are moments that are just generally fun from a horror aspect with the creature, which I said is straight from The Last of Us. It looks like a clicker from The Last of Us. That might be a light spoiler. And it's cool, and the makeup and practical effects with it are done really well, and it sounds like the creature, and it's the creature. I don't know. There's also a ton of trippy psychedelic sequences with nightmares and dreams playing out and hallucinatory like drug trips that are really well done and interesting visually. It's a lot of style over substance, I guess is my point. And I'm here for that. And I think a lot of it is punctuated by some really good sound design. Just a lot of moments that stuck out to me before even anything's happening, but they're just kind of sitting in this hut cooking meat. And it just has this sound of meat cooking in a little pot, and it just fills the whole room with this sound effect. And it really works. I don't know how else to say it, but it had me thinking, like, drives home how important sound design is in your movie. And the other thing, while this movie is like 4 characters, basically 3 though most of the time, and only a few locations, a forest and then this little hut, the movie still is able to tell a very kind of ambitious storyline with like larger effects than the characters themselves, meaning where the story goes may have implications for humanity in whole. But the forest that this movie is shot in is a legitimate forest, and it's kind of terrifying by itself. It just, at night it's dark and there's sounds, and the way they captured like just the trees and everything, I don't know how else to explain it. It just is really well done to give you this like very isolating effect. You feel like you're lost in the woods. Now, there are some plot elements that are questionable for me in this movie. I guess because the story, like I said, is very thin. There's not much here, but then character choices and connections with each other feel a little random and weird. So I do want to get into some spoilers because I want to talk about the story elements that kind of bug me in some ways. So like I said, you have basically 3 characters. You have this father and this son and this woman who's injured who they are taking care of. But the dynamics of the relationship are weird because this woman is older than this boy, but there's obviously starts to grow some sort of sexual attraction relationship dynamic there. And soon after she meets him, she's talking to the father about taking him away out of the forest, and it just all comes out of nowhere. Feels a little convenient and weird. And lots of choices, little choices like that along the way where characters aren't kind of reacting in a realistic fashion. But then you also have the father who is kind of a proxy for nature and its message about humanity, and kind of spouts these lines to this woman who's the kind of proxy for the viewer to understand this world. But the message gets a little undermined for me because he's kind of like this cultist and kind of crazy. So it starts to kind of lose its message about humanity's need to respect the earth. But I don't know. Other than that, I really did enjoy the movie. There's a few wonky editing to some of the fight scenes that was a little confusing, things like that. But for the most part, it was an interesting movie, and really visually interesting is the most important part, I would say. And it feels like they were able to do quite a bit with very little, so it might be worth checking out if any of this sounds interesting to you. It's available now on VOD. It's called Gaia. Yeah, so if you've watched it, let me know what you think. Otherwise, I will catch you here next time. Goodbye.